a 50-mile radius from the state capital, and that includes Ames, Newton, Pella, Marshalltown, and Boone. And so the comparison metros that they used to compare Des Moines' fortunes and possibilities to were Denver, Omaha, and Madison. There was some discussion on the appropriateness of Denver, but at this point in the study, it looks like it is, Denver. What can you do? Denver, Omaha, and Madison were our comparison metros. The information was gathered by Market Street. They conducted 50 one-on-one interviews. And so my speculation is that those 50 one-on-one interviews, and I'm looking for the steering committee list. The 50 one-on-one interviews that they started with, I'm guessing that they consisted of interviews with the steering committee, which is 50 people, and then 3 tri-chairs at the top of the list. That's just a guess. Then they had 30 constituency-specific or special interest focus groups that they spoke with. Business groups, church groups, environmental groups, development groups, things like that. So 50 one-on-one interviews, 30 constituency-specific focus groups, and then an online survey that garnered more than 4,000 responses, which is a pretty healthy contribution that the public made to the visioning process. That survey was divided into 2 sections, a community-wide general survey and then the young professionals survey. And so they presented conclusions at the meeting in January. Then they also presented further conclusions at this past meeting in April, which is what I attended. Overall, ISU is top ranked for agricultural research. Drake University is highly regarded by a majority of survey respondents. The main advantage to living in the greater Des Moines area is the lower cost of living, which I agree with. And then the challenges they listed were several. Des Moines has an image or perception of corn and cows, and so that was considered to be a problem or a challenge. Unemployment or lack of jobs, which might be, depending on where you are in the economic scheme of things in the Des Moines area, whether you're employed or unemployed or underemployed, might be a problem. Although overall, Des Moines ranked pretty low for unemployment, about 6%, whereas other parts of the country were much higher. Even one state over in Illinois was significantly higher than in Iowa. So it depends on where you are. The other challenge was young professionals leaving and how to attract young professionals, and once they're attracted, how to retain them. Then educational performance, and then public transportation challenges, which I just noted with the location of that meeting, which was not near any public transportation at all. So anyone who was maybe disabled or elderly or otherwise couldn't drive their own vehicle or didn't have access to a vehicle might have had difficulty getting to that meeting to express their opinions. They also listed some concerns: the next generation of philanthropy, the lack of airline choices, specifically Southwest Airlines, to bring down the cost of flying in and out of Des Moines, and then also a sense of parochialism.
There would be a shift of the tax burden from commercial to residential. Hard to quantify it, but it would certainly happen. TIF capacity would be severely restricted, and I might say that TIF has been one of the things that this city council has used very effectively over years to see development occur in our community. Without it, the downtown wouldn't be what it is, and I would also say that you've begun to use it in many neighborhoods around the city to very positive effect. So TIF would really be, I can't say destroyed, but it would be severely restricted. And last but not least, one of the options the council would have would be to increase the tax rate. So ask yourself the question, what would happen if you tried to increase the tax rate to compensate for that loss? Just to do the simple math, there would be about a 31% increase in the tax rate. You'd end up with a tax rate of 21.75. That's just the city levy now. That's not the aggregated. You're now about 16.58. So you can see it's a rather dramatic increase in the tax rate, which, by the way, is one of the things that we've all said, let's not increase the tax rate, because that's the optic that makes us seem less competitive to the rest of the world when we're trying to compete for business and residential.
There were 51 people at the meeting. 51, not 51 people, but 51 people at the meeting who participated in the voting. The organizers of Capital Crossroads were in attendance too. They didn't vote, but they watched us in the public, 51 of us, vote. So the votes represented approximately 0.01 of public input into the vision process. That was who was there. There's a large document at the CapitalCrossroadsVision.com website. The Target Cluster Marketing Analysis PDF is there. It's possible to download it and to print it. It's publicly available at CapitalCrossroadsVision.com. So since that information is available to the public, I'm not going to go in depth into it, but I will explain what's not there. And I'm going to explain what 99.99 of the Des Moines population who wasn't in attendance to vote, who weren't able to take time off of work, or who didn't have access to a car to get to the Botanical Center, what they missed. 51 people in the audience voted with clickers or response cards. 47 of the 51 people in the audience concluded that they had no interest in diversity or in the development of minority leadership in Des Moines. There was dead silence in the room when that was announced by Alex Pearlstein. He was moderating the discussion. You could hear a pin drop when that vote came through the clickers, and it was kind of awkward. But we moved on. But anyway, to my view, that voting result did reflect the mistaken perception of the image of Des Moines, and then maybe it's not mistaken, judging by how the voting went. I did question whether Market Street would put that voting on the website as well to make it public. I didn't get a straight answer at first. I kind of got a little bit of a brush off. And then someone else asked the same question, and he said yes. And so I did check, and voting results are on the website, except the total voting results aren't on the website. That particular question about diversity, minority leadership was not made public, and so I thought that was kind of interesting. But other questions were. I did question whether the steering committee took the same survey. I was curious because since the steering committee is approximately 50 people plus 3 tri-chairs, and then we were 51 of us, of the public who were voting, I was curious to see how our answers would compare to the general public that showed up for the meeting. Let's see. According to Alex Pearlstein, the steering committee did take the same survey that we did. I questioned whether the steering committee's voting would be made public. The room changed in atmosphere at that point. Alex Pearlstein told me that I would know how the steering committee voted when they drafted the final plan. Alright, but then again, it confirmed another mistaken perception of Des Moines, and that's transparency, or the lack thereof when it comes to decision making for planning, economic development, community development, things like that. And so I thought that was unfortunate. Maybe not the very best way, but oh well. The first public meeting last January, in contrast to this one, seemed very exciting, very hopeful, very open to the possibility that a public would be able to voice their thoughts on their city, and perhaps there would be one person, one vote in terms of influencing decisioning and visioning and planning and dreaming, things like that. But the second public meeting kind of concluded on that secretive, classist, mistrustful air. And through the questioning that others in the audience continued with, we did kind of get the impression that some votes would be considered more equal than others.